What's going on, people?
It's like I've been in a daze, waiting in the water, and I know it ain't a phase, so I'm just here treading water. It's like I've been in a daze, waiting in the water, and I know it ain't a phase, but I can't stay underwater. Life ain't been offering me any easy elevation, so we overperform, we raise the bar, exceed the norm, and keep breathing. Even though every breath's a fight, I choose to keep breathing, and I wouldn't choose any other but the blessing of the struggle we find.
Built by the gods, spirit comes from the source. Ethiops to the Greeks, from the sun we was forged, living under the sword. Keep us fighting for cheddar, frozen hearts never thawed. We just gotta be better, dedicated to war. Even target our children, so there's hate in my thoughts. The evolutionary building, deemed as permanent pilgrims, never welcomed as kin.
That's the blessing of the struggle we find.
Struggle, hustle and win, we from the blood of the kings, enemies lust for our.
All right, that's enough of that. What's going on, people? Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me here. That playing right there was my single. Thank you very much. Someone said, damn, this is good. Raccoon Slayer, shout out to you. I love the name as well. That track actually was supposed to be released on the 10th, but I'm coming across some copyright issues with it, so I've been in contact with the producer to see if we can get those resolved, because it's not allowing me to upload that track for streaming just yet. So there must be like an uncleared sample in there or something, which is a little bit of a frustration. But yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. When it does release, the track's going to be called Treading Water. It's in the bottom of the screen. You can see Elevation Treading Water. So feel free to grab yourself a copy, but I might have to change that date of the 10th. I'm not sure if it'll be streaming by then. Shout out to everyone who's here. Sibonakale, I know I keep murdering your name. Raccoon Slayer and Rainy, Triple X, what's going on? Thank you for joining me. We've got a lot to cover today, so I want to kind of dive straight in. So let me just share my screen, and then we'll get going with the main topic, which was the thumbnail, which basically I'm laughing, but I think I've reached the point of hysterity. You know, when you're kind of laughing, but the laugh is just a way of masking the deep, dark despair that you feel inside, because this world is such a horrendously vile place that we unfortunately have. Well, I should say this world is a wonderful place that we unfortunately have to share with horrendously vile beings who do vile things. So I think the title of the live stream is, if I remember correctly, I can never remember what I call things. Where's it gone? Title is, oh, Not Just a Movie. And I kind of got that thumbnail that you guys would have, well, some of you might recognize from the movie The Hunt, which, if you haven't watched, it's a decent movie. I would suggest you watch it. It's a spate of movies that came around, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was post-lockdown. There was a couple of movies that came out around the 21-22 region, and they had me running this question in my mind already, because I found them, you know, I found them a little bit too close. They hit a little bit too close to home. So one of them was called The Hunt, and the other one was called Antebellum. Shout out, let me know in the comments if you've seen one or both of those movies, The Hunt and Antebellum. Antebellum stars, what's her face? Gosh, I've forgotten her name now. That black female, young black female actress, very good looking. She started off as a singer. Gosh, someone was gonna tell me in the chat what her name is. You know, we just have a complete brain block. But yeah, Antebellum's a really good movie, and so is The Hunt. So I'll give you the basic synopsis for both of the movies because there's no point in me kind of like walking you through it. I've advised you to watch them. If you haven't watched them, watch them. If you've watched them already, feel free to like say something in the chat. But essentially, the synopsis of The Hunt is that a bunch of rich people get together and basically they've kidnapped or at least coerced a bunch of poor people, tricked a bunch of poor people into thinking they're going somewhere special. They drug them. The poor people wake up in the middle of nowhere and the rich people are just essentially hunting them like, I would say like dogs, but white people don't like to kill animals. If there's anything that I've noticed is rich people like to kill rare endangered animals and people. Those are the two things that rich people love to kill more than anything. Yeah, they don't like to kill that which anyone can kill. You know, they don't want to hunt cows, you know, and then actually eat the cows afterwards. They prefer to hunt stuff that people actually love and or feel protective of. This is why they've got a fixation, even in modern reservations. I think no conservation, I should say, not reservations. That would be weird. In modern conservation parks in the Africas, a lot of people think, oh, conservations, yeah, they're great ideas. You know, places where animals can, you know, roam safely, particularly if they're endangered species. Unfortunately, most conservations have got reserved areas where rich people can hunt endangered species, you know. So it's not hard to just Google and find pictures of, you know, a rich person posing with a tiger or a lion or an elephant that they've just shot. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, rich white people have a fixation with killing things they don't need to kill. And this goes right back through history. It's not like a new thing. During the imperial era, many of the extinctions that we're experiencing today, or at least that we're bearing the brunt of today, I should say, happened during the imperial era. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of the animals that are no longer with us were hunted to death during imperialism. America used to have a savanna that was very similar, or fauna, I should say. America used to have a fauna complex, environmental complex, very, very similar to Africa. They had loads of they had, you know, giant creatures and giant bears and this, that, and the other, and lions and all of these, you know, I think they had like their form of even elephant or something like that. But basically they had a very, very similar set of fauna that you find in modern day Africa. And that was cleared, killed, destroyed during the imperial era, because white people with guns just love to shoot things. They love to shoot things. I'm talking about birds, everything. There's birds being hunted to extinction, not just, you know, there's different kinds of crawling wildlife that they hunted to extinction. Everything, like, just went in there and they literally cleared up. And then as a result of the kind of like environmental damage, you had the, you know, the destruction of various rainforest areas and those kinds of rainforest creatures that were there. I once sat in a very interesting lecture where I learned all this, because I just thought, well, America's just different land, isn't it? It's just, no, America was literally like Africa, even more so. And Africa used to be more so like that, more so than it is at the moment. Everywhere the European has settled, they have subsequently conducted themselves in genocidal tendencies against not just the people, but also the environment. the fauna and the flora. They would bring it to heel. That's literally what they do. Massive side note that I was making there. The point I was referencing was the fact that this fixation and this, need to kill is something that is historic, and it's something that you can read up, and it's something that you can school yourself in, and something that they like to do. Shout out No Name Given. What's up? By the way, guys, I've got a kind of a new structure that I'm going to be practicing. Let me just get rid of the banner at the bottom of the screen. If you want to leave a chat, I will obviously read out all super chats that anyone gives. But if you want to leave unlimited super chats, you can just become a member of the channel. So I think my new kind of structure, and I'll make a banner for this or something, is that if you become a member, you get unlimited super chats. That means I'll pretty much read out all of the comments that you drop. Also, and I'll put them on the screen as well. Also, on live streams, when I open up the panel so that you can kind of like co-host or come on as a panel guest, that will be exclusive to members and patrons as well. Okay, so if you're a member of the channel, or if you're a patron on my Patreon, or a member of my other channel, The King's Monologue, let me know, and you get to join the panel, and you get to leave unlimited live chats. Okay, sorry, but you have to be a member of this channel for me to do the chat thing. Otherwise, it's too hard for me to administrate. So yeah, just letting you know that the super chats there and the channel memberships are there for you to jump on if you want to have your voice heard on here as well. So there's these two movies, Antebellum and The Hunt, which hit very close to home for me. The Hunt, basically, group of rich white people get together and just basically hunting these people who they've tricked into coming onto this island, which I thought that's really weird. And then the movie Antebellum essentially has this kind of like black lady. I'm surprised no one's given me her name yet. One second. Oh, damn it. I'm about to lose my screen because it needs to cool down. So I'm just going to quickly take my camera off temporarily. Okay. Yeah. And then you've got this movie Antebellum, where basically it's got this really well-to-do black lady, and she kind of rubs the wrong white people up the wrong way. And essentially they find a way of kidnapping her, taking her to this kind of like new plantation thing. But it's kind of set in the antebellum South, I want to say, or Antebellum West, one or the other. Americans will correct me if they're online here right now. It's either the Antebellum South or the Antebellum West, where essentially she's in this old kind of like, sharecropping / slavery environment where all of the black people are basically slaves and the white people are just basically having their way with them. That one's quite a hard watch. The Hunt is fun. So if you want to watch either of these, The Hunt is fun. Antebellum is a serious watch. So, if you're going to watch that, you have to be be prepared to see some stuff that's going to really upset you, particularly as a black person. But they're both really good movies. Now, why do I raise those? Because I saw this, and this kind of brought it all home. Exactly what I think my fears were when I watched those movies. So without any further delay or ado, let me play this video, and just let me know in the chat that you can hear it okay as well. So I need to know from you guys when this video starts playing. Just drop a 1 in the chat if it's playing okay, and then you can hear it. Okay.
For it. Guess what? They are. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna just quickly bring it back. Let me refresh this page.
Apparently, Epstein emails expose disturbing parties for hunting black people. These motherfuckers not only did they have to traffic children, rape them, beat them, murder them, torture them, drink their blood to maintain youthfulness, literally cause most of the bad things happening on Earth now. All these world events like 9/11 and so many other fucked up things and poisoning our food. But now, according to the emails, they had hunting parties to kill black people. This is not a fucking conspiracy theorist, guys. Bro, I will show you the emails. Going to Mean Lana's party now to hunt, right? You're probably thinking, oh, they're probably just hunting animals. Wait for it. Guess what? They are. Yeah. So they were essentially hunting black people on Epstein's island on top of raping kids, torturing kids, murdering kids, kidnapping children. And then he has the fucking audacity to say, thanks, thrilling hunt. This was 2016, guys. 2016. This was not the night. This was 2016. 2016. The peak of SoundCloud era. Way more recent. Oh, it was 10 years ago. This was way more recent than you guys think it was, bro. They've been doing, this is not old news. And the thing is, they're still doing stuff like this to this day. And they have been doing stuff like this since biblical times, since colonization, since slavery, since the Industrial Revolution. What makes somebody, what is in somebody's bloodline to make you hate somebody so much because of the color of their skin? What did black people do to you guys? What did black people do to you guys? Please tell me. What did they do? Nothing. Nothing. You know what it is? It's deeper than jealousy. It's deeper than racism. It's deeper than hate or envy or hatred or anger. This is evil, guys. This is evil. This right here is evil. This is evil. It is. You cannot be human at that point. All these colonizers and slave owners and racist people and all these elite pedophile demons. They're demons. They're fucking demons. I don't even think they're human. You want to get... I don't even think they're fucking human, bro. You're hunting black out of everybody. You didn't even hunt Latinos. Well, I don't know. I don't know anymore. But black people are the main ones. And people wonder all the time, why do I always speak about black people? For shit like this. They're the main ones. They're the main ones getting targeted by demons. The movie Get Out was not just a metaphor or a symbol for racism. They were literally, because remember, they put the truth in movies and the fake in real life. They were literally telling us what they do to black people on these islands, even like from slavery to now. They still do this shit on these rich ass islands, in these underground temples. I'm telling you, they still do this shit, bro. The colonizers and the demons are still here amongst us to this day. Currently, Epstein.
So I'm gonna put it there, and I mean I've seen your message, Stevie. You know I've got nothing but love for you, Stephen. But I appreciate the I don't know. I appreciate when people who aren't black at least show a bit of empathy, because it's such a rare thing to see. So I actually appreciated what this guy says. He says thou doth protest too much. I don't know. Maybe so. I can't accuse him of anything I haven't seen, but I also wouldn't dissuade from what you feel in your gut. Oftentimes people feel things in their gut and I catch up a little bit later. But the point being, I wanted him to go through the entire video there, and I didn't want to interrupt, because when I heard this, my first reaction was skepticism. I'm sure many of you would have felt similar way. It's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, sure. Do you have any evidence? The evidence there is quite strong. Okay, the evidence there is quite strong, and what's notable is that if this is true, and it's hard to believe it's not true if they're basically saying thrilling hunt their niggas. We know that Epstein didn't like black people. He didn't have black people or invite black people to the island. Okay, and this would contextualize and give a very good reason as to why he didn't want black people present. And this would also contextualize as to why this I would put this in the wheelhouse of things that middle class, middle age white men would enjoy doing. I think it takes more than just young girls to get them excited, to be totally honest with you. I think that's only a part of the story. If you look historically through the behavior, actually historically, if you look presently at the behavior of these people who have access to, exorbitant amounts of wealth and and basically don't have any restrictions that are placed upon them. When you look to the behaviors of these people, it tends to track along these lines. They always seem to go for these gross, this kind of gross display of complete lack of humanity. It's always going to be something that's sexual, followed by unaliving people, sacrificing. They've got a bloodlust. And this does not surprise me in the slightest. When I heard this, I was like, yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about right. Absolutely sounds about right. Let me give a massive shout out to Stephen. Big yourself up, my brother. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. $40. Amazing stuff. Thank you. Yeah, it's a much appreciated. You coming on here and making that donation. Appreciate you. Much love and respect. So he said, thank you, King. And I say, yeah, thank you. So when they talked about that, my mind was straight away drawn to these movies, because I think that's why I found both of these movies, The Hunt, and I don't know where they're streaming. Someone asked me if they're streaming, but both The Hunt and Antebellum came to mind straight away, because both of those movies, I remember watching them going, this feels in the wheelhouse of upper class white behavior. This feels really within that wheelhouse. I could see them doing this. I could see them, if someone has had the imagination to create this for a movie storyline, there's no way some rich white man hasn't already done this to fulfill their own personal desires and lusts. And I'm actually going to draw a really strong parallel to this as well. So I want you to listen to this, because this is something that was separate, but then when this came, it brought it home. So why do only, and people will say, oh, what about that black guy did it the other day? But that was kind of, we'll come on to that. But why do only young white men commit mass shootings? Okay. I want you to think about that for a second. Why is it kind of like, why is that particular behavior very unique to young white men? Why do they go out and they go, oh, I'm going to unalive all of my classmates, I'm going to, like, everyone, all those people who have upset me, they're all going to get it. Think about the pathology behind that. What would trigger someone to conduct themselves in that way? And I would argue it's exactly the same thing that triggers these men, these middle-aged white men, to conduct themselves in this way on Epstein's Island and go on hunts and kidnap children and drink whatever, and do the other things, that all the horrible things that no one talks about on the Epstein. Everyone's talking about, oh, well, your name's whose names. No one's actually talking about stuff like this. Like, these are sick people and no one's been arrested yet. And this is exactly what happened in the UK with Jimmy Savile and all these other people who conduct themselves in this way. UK has had plenty of Epsteins, like I said before. This is for people perhaps in the States or elsewhere. This is your first Epstein. I'm from the UK. We have an Epstein every decade or so. Okay, we've had Gary Glitter, we've had Rolf Harris, we've had Jimmy Savile. Do we have the MPs? We know that the MPs conducted themselves in Epstein-like behavior in the UK. All of these things are well known. And this is probably one of the reasons why we're slightly desensitized to it over here. And you're not seeing maybe the kind of reaction that you're hoping from the UK, because they are very okay with white men conducting themselves in this way. But the question was, why is it only young white men who go and decide, yeah, I'm gonna unalive a whole bunch of people? Someone says it could be satanic cults. Yeah, that could be the case. Most of them just show that they've got a link to KKK. Now, normally that's enough. You don't need the larger kind of like institution above them, the larger religious. Normally they're just kind of fanatics. but we know that the KKK is never going to be regarded as a true terrorist organization, even though they were the first and they are easily the most brutal terrorist organization this world's ever seen. But that's aside. I'll give you my answer, or at least my postulation on this. The reason why white men and white boys conduct themselves in this way is because of basically lack of consequences. It's that freedom to access anything. Okay, it's knowing that you exist in that one demographic where it's almost impossible for you to suffer consequences. The way you conduct yourself as a white male has to be so entirely heinous for anything to happen to you that you become so used to not having to suffer any consequences that your lusts become uncontrollable. And that's what you find with them. It's a form of lust. Okay, they have this lust. It's either a sexual lust or it's a bloodlust, but it's a lust. And it's like, well, I feel this way, so I should be able to do it. I feel like, you know, graping, so I should be able to do it. I feel like unaliving, so I'm just going to do it. Because you exist in that demographic where there is often no consequences for what you do. Zero consequences. You feel like you live out. The law exists to protect you. It doesn't exist to convict you. The law exists to to exonerate you. The law exists to convict everybody else. The law exists to elevate you. And so you get these young boys and they're like, 1 second, I'm really filled with lustful feelings right now. And what would really make me feel fulfilled is, it's not enough to just have, you know, sex with someone. It's not enough to just, you know, rob someone's, you know, virginity or whatever it is. You know what I want to do? It would fulfill me to unalive a bunch of people. That would be the ultimate thrill. And then being a white male, they just do it. That's all it is. They just do it. They just go, well, I'm just gonna do it. Somehow I'll be okay at the other side because I'm a white male and we don't suffer consequences. And it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same framework that's operating here with these men doing this. It's exactly the same thing. These men just don't have anything that's preventing them or stopping them or making them fearful. Now, obviously, there's a much deeper demonic layer because, and many of you would have picked up on this, it's not enough to just fear consequences. You have to actually have a conscience. And the issue is, and this is where it comes to issue number 2, I reckon if you look in the lineage for a lot of these young white men who have conducted themselves in this way, who do the kind of like mass unalivings, look in their lineage and I guarantee you, their parents did the same thing. That's the part that people don't want to. Oh, you're such a good kid. Billy was such a good. Billy's dad was involved in a lynching. I can guarantee you that. Okay. Bobby's dad was involved in a race riot. Okay. Chad's dad was involved in, you know, burning down a city, and his granddad moved into a house that he didn't pay for. All of these young white boys who go out and they conduct themselves in the most heinous and vile manner, I guarantee you that is inherited behavior. Guarantee you it's inherited behavior. No one talks about that generation of white people who conducted themselves completely outside of the law. From let's go from emancipation from the 1860s to 1960, for that 100-year period, you had essentially pretty much the entirety of white society conducting themselves in a complete lack of law, complete lawlessness, complete and utter lawlessness. which only came to an end when civil rights was enacted in America. Okay. And by the way, this is global lawlessness. Okay. Global lawlessness. Europe was experiencing the same thing at this time, like global lawlessness. That will have a consequence. It will have a consequence on the next generation. Okay. They think it doesn't, but it does. What people have witnessed, or what their parents have witnessed, or what their parents participated in, is going to have a knockdown effect. And that is why they produce these strange children. These strange children are not strange in the context of their lineage. Okay, to be clear, these strange children are not strange within the context of their lineage. And that's why they behave in that manner. That's almost guaranteed. Yeah, I mean, Crenshaw talked about the London being home of the first documented serial killers. Yeah, London had a few. London had a few. So I'm glad. I'm always glad to let people know what the UK is really like, because I think people have this really romantic perspective on what the UK is like. It's like, no, like, what are you talking about? One thing that the UK is very good at is dog whistling. The other thing that the UK is very, very good at is basically ignoring their crime. Basically, if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't acknowledge something took place, if you don't acknowledge racism, if you don't acknowledge the fact that the Houses of Parliament is full of kiddie fiddlers, then it's not true. Well, no one was convicted, no one was charged, so it's all speculation. Okay, but we had like dozens of witnesses. He said that that MP, they were all involved, and he saw someone his best friend got unalived, and he saw him run over this other kid, and then from this age to that age, they were repeatedly committing rapes upon this young child. You know, unless these people are crazy, why would they say that? Oh, well, no charges were brought. Innocent. Folly, move on. Happens in the UK all the time. In fact, most UK television soaps will have someone in the cast who's been accused of that. There's a soap I used to watch called Coronation Street, and I think that has 2 or 3 people who have been accused of the most heinous, either kiddie fiddling or outright graping, and they got innocent somehow because obviously they're rich and they're famous, and now no one cares. There's a show called Coronation Street, and the oldest actor in it, the one who's been in it the longest, I think he was in episode 1. It's a guy he plays a character called Ken. I don't know what his real name is. He's a convicted rapist and not convicted, sorry, he's an accused rapist and pedophile. There's another character who played a guy called Kevin, who's also the same, accused rapist and pedophile. It's just all over the UK. Yeah, it's all over the UK. So yeah, all this Epstein stuff, man, I'm telling you, like, it's old stuff here. All right, let's move on from that video. Let's move on to the next one. Right now, my stream is really bothering me so damn slow. Let me close some windows and hope for the best. I'm going to close some windows quickly. Bear with me for like 1 minute while I close these apps and hope to improve my oh, look, you got a sneak peek there of something I was creating for my other channel. That'll be dope when it comes out. Okay, I think it's slowly improving. Too many windows open, man. Absolutely ridiculous. I've got no screen discipline. Shout out if you're like me. Let me know if you're like me and you've got no screen discipline. Let's close this one down as well. This one's got way too many windows open. Close. Okay. All right, we might see a bit of improvement. Oh, let's close down Word as well. We don't need that open. That's closed. And Adobe PDF. That's actually literally Adobe PDF. That's what the that's what the program's called. Okay, I'm not confessing anything there, guys. That used to mean something different. Imagine what program I'm using Adobe PDF Creator. What? This generation will be like, call the cops. He's using PDF Creator. Oh man. Shout out Retro Haven. He said my new single's dope. Thank you, brother. I'm looking forward to it releasing, I should say. All right, so let's hit on the next subject. Okay, so this one is gonna get you down. Well, this one I feel like you may have heard already, but this one, yeah. Let me get it on the screen. Let me not say too much, and let me just get it on the screen. And I just realized I closed the window that I needed. Dear, that's annoying. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're good to go. Let me add that to the screen again.
Mr. Clark Samuel, you may remain.
We'll go into it. Basically, this next one we're going to go into is about a UK artist called Ghetts, who some of you might have heard of. His UK artist called Ghetts. I think his original name was Ghetto, and then he started calling himself Ghetts. He goes back in the UK at least quarters. I think it's about he's been around for about 20 years. Yeah, about 20 years he's been around, long time. Really good artist, rapper, in the UK. I've met him on many occasions. He's a cool guy. I think a company I used to run used to host his website back in around 2013, 2014. Really nice guy. However, unfortunately, he was jailed recently for 12 years. He will serve a minimum of 8 years because he was involved in a hit and run accident. Now, we've known about this in the UK for a few months now. So the trial, the sentencing is new, happened a couple of days ago, but the trial itself goes back to before Christmas when this actual incident happened. And when I heard about it, I was really kind of like, everyone's a bit upset. I was upset, but I was also on my defensive because I just have this thing, when it's a black person, particularly, there's not, when it comes to the black community in Britain, we're not like humongous, So when one of ours who's successful is accused of anything, straight away my defense mechanism is going to go up. I'm going to be like, nah, like, I need to hear the full details. Give me the full details. I need to hear that. Like, I was questioning everything. Now, there was a video that came out almost instantaneously when the accusation was made against Ghetts. So everyone saw this video. Now, because it was a snuff video, I didn't watch it, but I had it described to me. I've got this thing where I don't watch snuff videos. If there's a video and I know someone dies in the video, I just won't watch it. It's just a kind of defense mechanism that I've got built up. It allows me to preserve my perspective that life is valuable. I think if you watch people getting unalived, real footage of people getting unalived, that you get desensitized to that, I think that's damaging to your human spirit. And so it's one of the things that I just don't allow myself to do. I'm not interested in watching a video if someone gets snuffed in it. So I can say quite happily in 2026, I've probably only ever seen one video of someone getting snuffed, and I didn't know it was going to happen. Like a friend of mine tricked me into watching it, and I was really irritated with him afterwards. But aside from that, I've never seen someone get unalived on video. I try to avoid it. So there was this video, and it was pretty damning. The video was pretty damning. Like, people who watched it were like, yeah, this dude's like, he's guilty. But I was just like, okay, cool. Yeah, it was a hit and run. I can't defend him. It's horrible. He's killed someone. But I tell you what, this came out recently. This is the sentencing, and they kind of gave you all of the evidence. And even as a like fellow black Brit who knows this guy, who has, you know, been through so much, turned his life around, his behavior was pretty much inexcusable. Pretty much inexcusable. It's bad. It's bad. So I'm gonna play this. This is the full video of the sentencing. We're not gonna watch it all. I'll probably have to skip over some of it. But in fairness to you, it's a half-an-hour video. And in fairness to you, it is half an hour of very informative content about the case. I watched the half an hour and I was gripped for it for the entirety. Now, just for the sake of this live stream, I'm not going to put on a half an hour video and just let it play for half an hour, because that's not good stuff. I'll put the link in the description after I finish publishing this, but you can find it. You can see there, Sky News rapper gets sentenced for blah, blah, blah. You can find it yourself and watch it yourself. So I will skip through it a bit, but I want you to just like hear some of what this judge has to say, and then tell me what your opinions on the case and the sentencing are. But it doesn't look good for Ghetts here.
Seated. On the 8th of December 2025, at the plea and trial preparation hearing in this case.
By the way, shout out the judge and the African wig on his head. Yeah. No one ever finds it bizarre as to why these judges wear Afro wigs in the UK. If only you knew.
You pleaded guilty to dangerous driving and to causing death by dangerous driving. Those two matters on the indictment, counts 1 and 2, cover episodes of your driving the evening of the 18th of October 2005 between 11 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. when you drove from central London to Roding Lane South in Redbridge, and secondly, when on Redbridge Lane you hit and killed Yubin Tamang as he was crossing the road. Counts 3 and 4 of the same indictment allege that at the time of causing the death of Yubin Tamang, you were driving whilst over the prescribed limit for alcohol. And lastly, after causing his death, you embarked on a further episode of dangerous driving as you made your way from the scene of the fatality to your home. On your behalf, a written basis of plea document was provided. That document is dated the 8th of December 2025. In that document, you set out that your guilty pleas to counts 1 and 2 were on the basis that you drank 3 glasses of brandy and coke whilst having a meal in central London. When you went to drive home, you claimed you saw 4 people in a Mercedes A-Class who you say looked suspicious and who you thought may pose a threat to you or your car. The basis of plea speaks of an incident some years before when you had been approached at gunpoint and your vehicle taken. You said that on the 18th of October 2025, you believed you were under threat and were being followed, and this led to your erratic and dangerous driving. It is also said this led to the sudden increase in speed before the collision, the subject of count 2.
So I'm just going to pause it there really quickly. So as you heard, Ghetts' defense on this case was to essentially say that, first of all, he said that he only had he had a bit to drink. I think he said he had 3 brandy and cokes. Then he had the accident. And then when he got home, he drank a hell of a lot more. Now, obviously, you can already see that there's massive holes in that kind of defense. So he's basically trying to avoid the fact that when he got behind the wheel, he was really, really drunk. Not only that, they found cannabis in his system. So he had copious amounts of alcohol in his system, but he had also been bunning. So he had drugs and alcohol, deadly cocktail in terms of getting behind the wheel. And when I show you the footage of him driving later, the honest truth is the guy was driving like a maniac, like a complete and utter maniac. And I would like to also sit here and defend him. But the problem is, this is a culture. This is a culture. This kind of like, I want to say, ex-road guy getting a really nice car and then driving like a complete pillock. It's not like unseen. I've been in a car with my cousin, and it was a Lamborghini Urus, which is a very fast car, I would say. So it says this the Lamborghini 4x4. And as much as I love my cousin, he was driving like a complete prat. And I was really irritated by him, because it's kind of like, you don't want to go, bruv, can you not kill me, please? I've got kids. But it's this thing where it's like, oh, you know, okay, I get it. You know, you've done well in life. You've made a lot of money. You've now got a fast car. But then I'm never going to sit there and respect driving in a way that risks other people's lives. I just can't respect it. Now, I know that cars are dangerous, full stop. I know that. Yeah, okay, cars are dangerous. But there's a way you drive in which you greatly increase the likelihood that you're going to hurt or kill someone. There's a way in which you drive. And the way Ghetts is driving in this video is familiar to me. I've seen idiots driving like that. And as much as I want to defend him as a fellow black British brother, he was driving like a friggin' idiot. Like an idiot. He could have killed multiple people on the way, you know, to actually unaliven this guy. And what he did afterwards, I would dare say, was even worse. So yeah, let me let it carry on.
Then wanted to get home as quickly as possible, as you thought you were still under threat. Once home, you said you could.
Oh, and obviously he made the defense that he felt like he was being chased, for which he had his excuse was there was an incident and it was reported to the police where he essentially got carjacked before. So that's a real thing. Okay, you're rich, you get car, you know, you're driving a nice car in London. You know, carjacking was massive about 10 years ago. It was massive in London, where anyone could just like they'll carjack women. You know, it's horrible. It's horrible. You know what I mean? You're driving a nice car and there are certain parts of London, you know, that you're going to be at threat that someone's going to try and basically take, you know, once you've stopped, take the car from you. So that's a real thing. So he cited a situation where that happened to him, and that's cool, but that wasn't the case here. There was just no evidence of it. There was no second vehicle, and there's so much CCTV footage of him driving like a complete and utter idiot. So he's tried a fast one there, but I don't think the judge didn't go for it. And normally, like, I would cry, you know, no, you're just saying that because he's black. If it was a white person, you'd believe him. But I was like, I can't defend you on this one, brother. I can't. You know me, I'd love to, but I can't. There was no case there.
Consumed 6 to 7 shots of Chirok vodka mixed with ginger beer and had a cannabis cookie. You say you then dozed off before being woken by the police. At the police station, you say you told a legal representative that you had drunk vodka in the hour or two before your arrest, had consumed a cannabis cookie and signed a written document to that effect at the police station. You do not understand why police records show something different. You accepted that you may well have been over the drink drive limit when you got into your car from that restaurant, but if so, it would not have been by much. At that stage, a timetable was set for matters in that base of plea to be considered, along with further consideration of the evidence in support of counts 3 and 4. Having given time for inquiries to be made by your solicitors and by the Crown Prosecution Service to consider the account set out in that written base of plea, I note that no vehicle can be seen on any available CCTV to follow your car. You said you had been at the Omi Lounge and that at no point can any car be seen to follow you as you have suggested. On your behalf, today it is said that you maintain that you believed you felt under threat, albeit it is accepted there is no independent evidence of that, and no evidence has been called on that issue on your behalf.
And I think one of the big problems he has here with that defense as well is the fact that he had so much drugs and alcohol in the system, like so much. So making that defense is a hard one to maintain. I'm not going to say it's totally impossible that he felt he was being followed, but you also have to bear in mind how much would his judgment have been impaired by the amount of alcohol that he consumed. I want to just quickly escape from this because this. I want you to watch this. By the way, guys, I didn't show you this by accident. It's half an hour long, but the judge really does break down the case quite informatively. So, you know, shout out to him. Well, shout out for that. Let me show you another video because the other video shows actual footage, so you can see some of the driving, which the judge actually describes quite well. So the judge talks about the way he was driving and him brushing a motorcycle and this, that, and the other, and the motorcyclist following him, because I might actually go to that part actually where the judge is describing his driving, because it actually is quite informative. Let me skip ahead a bit.
Segara was riding his motorcycle along Good Street. As you drove past him, your car brushed his leg, causing him to stop and to put his foot to the ground. You did not stop. You drove on and drove through a red traffic light. When the lights changed to green, the motorcyclist followed your vehicle. When he did so, he observed you drive through 2 further sets of traffic lights at red. You turn left into Gower Street and then right into Torrington Place, again passing through a red traffic light. You then continued along Bing Place into Gordon Square, passing through yet another red light. As you drove into Tavistock Square, there was slow and stationary traffic. You then drive onto the pavement outside the Tavistock Hotel to pass that line of stationary vehicles that were waiting at a red traffic light. You then drive through yet another set of traffic lights at red and collide with a Mercedes car. You continue into Tavistock Place, stopped momentarily before then driving away.
So you hear that? That's a big deal. So he hits the guy on the motorcycle. It brushes his leg, but the guy is so shook up by this, he starts following, gets his vehicle, gets into another accident where he actually hits a Mercedes and he just drives off. So that's the second hit and run incident. And as someone who had a hit and run recently, so at least someone hit my vehicle and tried to drive away, that shizzle's really annoying. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know what I mean? So it's quite indicting. I want to let him finish kind of like reading this series of events, because this is the point where I watched, where I was like, okay, man, as much as I love a fellow black man, I can't help you here, brother.
The motorcyclist, Mr. Segara, stopped to speak to the driver of the Mercedes, Mr. Ansari. He checked that he was uninjured and then continued to follow your car. When you stopped at a red light in Sidmouth Street, close to Grayson Road, he took a photograph of the registration plate of your vehicle. Mr. Ansari was driving his car as a taxi that night and had a passenger. He was driving towards Holborn. He recalls travelling slowly in Tavistock Square at its junction with Gordon Square. He saw your car come towards him, and having passed through a red traffic light, you tried to get across the road in front of Mr. Ansari, but stopped. Mr. Ansari continued to drive forward. As he passed, you drove on and collided with the back of his car on the driver's side, close to the rear wheel, before then driving away at speed. Mr. Ansari called the police at 11:03 that evening, and he later took a video of the damage you had caused to his car. After this collision, you continued in the direction of your home in Woodford. Analysis of your mobile phone shows that you made 5 voice calls to the same number in that period. The calls are of various duration, up to 1 minute and 21 seconds. CCTV footage captures you driving, often at speed, between 11:21 and 11:27 p.m. At 11:21, you're on the Balls Pond Road, on the wrong side of that road, before turning left, continuing on Dalston Lane. A minute later, you drove around 2 cars travelling along Dalston Lane by moving onto the wrong side of the road. You passed 4 cyclists travelling in the opposite direction in that lane, causing 2 of those cyclists to swerve in order to avoid a collision. At 11...
So there's footage of that as well, where he nearly hits 2 cyclists off their bikes, which is kind of like, damn, that's not good. Not good.
23, you overtook another car by moving onto the wrong side of the road. Later, as you're on Graham Road, you move again onto the wrong side of the road and drove through yet another set of traffic lights at red. At 11:24 p.m, you accelerate around a lorry travelling along Morning Lane. Further along Morning Lane, at its junction with Ponsford Street, a car stopped at a red traffic light. You crossed yet again onto the wrong side of the road. At 11:25, still driving along Morning Lane, you crossed the junction at Well Street and moved onto the opposite lane, narrowly missing a car travelling in the opposite direction. By 11:30 p.m.
And what's really damning here is obviously the defense made was he felt like he was under threat, but this is half an hour now. So the first incident of him brushing the leg of the motorcyclist, that was like closer to 11 o'clock, and now we're close to 11:30. He's still driving like a maniac, and he's in a completely different part of London. So it's just like, yeah, it's almost indefensible. I could let this play on because the laundry list of stuff that this judge reads out is really damning, but I just want to quickly show you a bit of footage and then we can kind of move on from this so you can see what took place. And yeah, how Ghetto ended up here. Let me just quickly pop this on.
Tractor.
So let me go.
So
is this the one? Yeah, this is. Let me go to the key parts. So these are the parts I'm going to show the footage. Let me quickly just pull them up for you.
Of his home. It's not 100% clear whether he was actually driving home, but he was driving in that direction. He was driving sort of across London, sort of northeast across London.
So you see him there, that's just in the wrong lane. Just bombing down the wrong lane, man. That is crazy.
yeah, so obviously he's made the choice to drink drive at this point. Have they?
That's where he nearly hits those cyclists. So he's on the wrong side of the street here. And these cyclists who are coming forward, he really could have been another fatality right there.
They touch on his previous?
Yeah, they went into all his previous. I mean, obviously, there's none of it is very recent. The last one was 2010, and then
yeah, and that's the sad thing. The sad thing is he has a load of previouses. He did go to prison when he was younger. He has some driving offences when he was younger, but he hasn't. He's 41 years old now. Yeah, he hasn't been caught for any crimes. I would say committed any crimes, but clearly driver's an issue for him since he was 25. You know, so this is not just some like hoodlum. He's a responsible grown man. He's got kids, he's got a family, he's done well for himself, he's done a lot of good things, you know, in British society. And like I said, he's a really cool guy. And he hasn't, you know, this is, you know, all of that previous stuff that he did when he was a kid, that's really irrelevant. But it seems that the one behavior, and this is I guess is the moral of the story, that one behavior that he couldn't get under control has cost him everything. And he's not the only one. I know a bunch of guys, like, you're literally risking throwing it all away for what, a moment of thrill behind why are you 41? Respectfully, he's been driving nice cars his entire life. Yeah, relatively, you know, to his friends. I'm not saying he's been rich, but I'm saying even when he was early Ghetts, he was doing well enough to be driving a nice little GTI or just something. You've been driving relatively nice cars your entire life. Why do you still have this need to drive like a boy? You're 41 years old. Why are you driving like a child? Why are you getting behind the wheel like crazily drunk and, you know, you know, and under the influence of drugs? It's stupid. It's so stupid to do that. And he was in Supercell as well. So this isn't someone who has nothing going for his life at the moment. His music career still doing relatively well. And he also was coming out, or at least beginning to establish himself as an actor as well. So much going for him, and to throw it all away just to drive like a bit of an idiot is really sad, man. Really sad. Let me just quickly skip ahead to another part so you can see some more of the footage leading up to the accident, and you can see him as well, actually. So this
bad
is
driving. But I just don't understand why he drove. You know, this is a guy who's not short of a bob. Why didn't he get a limousine or get an Uber? It just doesn't.
By the way, the running joke back in the day was Ghetts looks exactly like Chris Rock. I know he doesn't anymore with the beard and he's filled out a little bit, but Ghetts looks exactly like Chris Rock. If you see younger pictures of him, he looks like Chris Rock, which is always quite funny. But yeah, You can hear the guy mirroring what I literally just said. Like, why did he drive? Like, he had no. It's just crazy, crazy. He put himself in this situation. Even just getting pulled over drunk. Like, that's in London. That's always a likelihood. That's always a high likelihood. As a black man driving an M5, by the way, it's a BMW M5, which is a very nice, souped-up sports car, incredibly powerful. I'm not sure what the brake horsepower is. I think it's in the region of about 300 to 500 brake horsepower, depending on which one you have. So that's a car that it goes. You're gonna get pulled. I'm sure he's been pulled over by the police. When you drive a nice car like that as a black person, you're gonna occasionally get the whoa whoa, and then you'll have to okay, fine, go ahead, you're all clean. Why would you drive drunk? It's so stupid, so unbelievably stupid.
It just beggars belief. I don't understand it.
Yeah. So from what happens from there, that's the stuff we've seen in the news. What come out in court from the moments after, the emergency services, the arriving at his house? What happens from that point?
Yeah, they went into detail.
So that's the young fella he killed. Is a student from, his name's Penang, so I'm gonna guess like Indonesia. I'm sure they've said it. Excuse me if I've not got that correctly. But he's a young student. He was a foreign student. He was here. And yeah, when Ghetts hit him, the guy goes flying in the air. He's pretty much, they tried to help him on the scene, but he weren't gonna make it. And the worst thing that I don't think I've even mentioned here is that Ghetts didn't stop. Once he hit him, he broke for a second and then he just sped off. He just thought, I'm not dealing with that. And that is the thing that makes it really hard for people to forgive him. That was the nail in the coffin. In spite of all of his horrible driving, I think if he had done the right thing in that scene, at that point, and stopped and helped and shown concern, then you just kind of view it as an accident. It's an accident that's taken place. Yes, you've been driving like an idiot all along, but I'd imagine it's still an accident and everyone can appreciate it. But when you drive away, that's when it feels like you're a nasty person for doing that. So it was really quite bad. Yeah, quite bad. Not gonna lie. Someone's lost their life and potentially more people could have lost their life that day. So yeah, not a good look for Ghetts, man.
They basically said that Yubin Tamang had suffered sort of unsurvivable injuries. He'd been sort of literally catapulted into the air by the impact and sort of landed in a heap. So he, had massive brain injuries. He hung on in hospital for a few days and then passed away. But yeah, and then they also said that there was no way he could have got out of the way. This is a little sort of, where's this sort of residential road? I think there was a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and suddenly this car comes hurtling along at 74 miles an hour, and there's no way he could have.
74 miles an hour down a residential street in London is wild. Residential streets in London literally can fit two cars, one in either direction. Sometimes there's lines of parked cars on either side of the street. So for him to be doing 74 down a residential, I can't explain to you guys how irresponsible that is. There's no road in London. There's no residential street in London that, sometimes you want to get home quick. You might do 40, 45 at a stretch. And if you're doing those kinds of speeds, you're being a real idiot. You're being irresponsible because anyone could just walk out between two parked cars. That's at a stretch. I know I'm going fast. Obviously, when you're out on dual carriageways or different kinds of roads, we have these big roads like the A40 in the UK, which is like, three lanes in each direction. It's a dual carriageway. The speed limit is sometimes 30, sometimes 40. People on that road will do 70 and no one will bat an eyelid. In certain parts, 70, 80, just zoom down it, whatever, man. As long it's late, no one cares. It's a big road. It's safe. No one's just crossing it. Doing 74 down a residential is crazy. It's crazy. That is like way too fast to react to anything. I will kill someone if someone steps out into the street. No one's reaction time is going to be quick enough. Mine won't be and theirs won't be. It's an insane. It's sad. It's sad. It is absolutely sad. 74 he was going when he hit this young man. 74. So let me just overview everything. In fact, let me there's I could take you to the sentencing. Let me escape this. Go back to the other video. I'm gonna take you to the sentencing because I think that's at the end of the video. Why hasn't it got timestamps, man?
And I acknowledge that you have used both the music and the money has given you. Turning next to mitigation. On your behalf, I have seen and read a sentencing note that has been prepared on your behalf. It is accepted that this is a Category A1 case, and with aggravating features that may have a starting point for sentence in double figures. It is submitted, the court may be able to reduce that sentence to within the single figure range. Through Mr. Aina, a full apology has been made and a full acceptance of the sequence of events in the course of your driving that evening that are clear aggravating features of the driving. As I have already said, a quite appalling litany of events. Mr. Aina also expresses your apology to the many others that you have let down. Your letter and those of the many who have written about you are ones that I have read and digested. Laverne Cole gave evidence in the course of this hearing to further highlight the work that you have done to assist those the St. Christopher's Fellowship supports with issues around the impact of their own offending behaviour. Those you met valued what you said about your own experiences. And in your letter to me, you state as follows: the dedication it took to establish myself professionally has not only shaped my character, but has also strengthened my ability to reach out to others and positively influence them. The career I have built reflects not only my commitment to self-improvement, but also my desire to make a constructive and lasting contribution to my community. I am committed to being a positive member of society and will continue to do my part in trying to create positive outcomes for young people in my community. Mr. Aina has highlighted some parts of the character letters that I have referred to. As I've said, it is very clear that you have done much to support others. But as I've also indicated, it is a real shame that all of that work has been impacted by your dangerous and ultimately fatal actions last October. Would you stand, please? On count 2, it's causing death by dangerous driving, applying the guidelines as set out, and making allowance for the aggravating and mitigating features identified. The sentence before plea would have been one of 16 years imprisonment. In my judgment, the aggravating features set out would take the sentence to the top of the identified range of sentence before the mitigating features identified, then bring it down to the sentence that I've just indicated, making allowance for your plea of guilty, a sentence of 12 years imprisonment. On count 1, dangerous driving, a concurrent sentence of 15 months. Again, before plea on count 1, there would have been a sentence of 20 months, taking allowance for your plea, 15 months. Your license will be endorsed with the particulars of the convictions for dangerous driving and causing death by dangerous driving.
So basically, very quickly, he would have been given 16 years for the death by dangerous driving because, and which is at the higher end. I think he could have got up to life for that, but it was at the higher end because there was so many incidents leading up to the accident where he was driving so erratically and endangering the lives of others. It made it very hard for it to say, you know, you could kill someone by dangerous driving just doing a single overtake. But this, you know, throughout your journey, you've been driving, you know, fast maybe, but relatively okay. But he was driving like a maniac for half an hour. This is one of the things that really was condemning for him. So because of the guilty plea, the 16 years is what the judge was going to give him was reduced to 12 years because they brought it down by 25%. And it's the same thing for the other charge, which I can't remember what it was, which should have been 20 months, but it was reduced to 15 months. He also said that he kind of increased the overall because the sentences were going to be served concurrently. So in other words, he doesn't have to serve one after the other. So the 12 years, the maximum sentence is basically what he'll be serving. So 12 years is the sentence, and the judge is going to go on now because he only has to, he has to serve, I think, 2/3 of that So I think he'll be 8 years in prison. So I'll just let the judge kind of get
There
it.
will be an order for disqualification until you pass an extended driving test. In terms of disqualification from driving, the minimum period is one of 5 years. And here, in light of the facts and your previous driving record, a disqualification for 9 years. In light of the custodial period that I have imposed, there must be an extension period to that period of disqualification, and that has to be 2/3 of the custodial term I impose, as the custodial period is one of over 7 years. The extension period is one of 8 years. So there will be a disqualification from driving for a period of 9 years and an extension period of 8 years, making a total period of 17 years.
So he's disqualified from driving for 17 years, but obviously he'll be in prison for 8 of those years. So when he comes out of prison, he'll be suspended for driving for 9 years after coming out of prison. So that's like, whoa, that's like really harsh. But that tracks back to the fact that he has driving offences that he was convicted for prior to this offence. So unfortunately, they've been really harsh on that count as well. So I mean, he hasn't got off at all. I don't think his celebrity has saved him anything in this. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, he should have got." I was like, "Look, you're not going to get." It's very, unless you intentionally killed someone with your vehicle, which you didn't do, you're not going to get life for death by dangerous driving. But yeah, there's so much condemning him in this, man. That's the sad thing. So much condemning him. It was hard. It's a harsh sentence. It's not a light sentence. People saying he got off lightly. He didn't. He's going to be behind bars for 8 years. With the possibility to serve 12. So it's kind of like, that's not light at all.
On that sentence of 12 years, you will serve 2/3 of that.
Just consider PDF files normally serve far less than that in both the UK and the US. So I'm just saying.
Term, and then be released on license for the remainder of it. Whilst on license, you must comply with the terms of that sentence. At any stage, the license may be revoked and your return to custody ordered. There will be an order that you pay the prosecution costs in the sum of £1,630. That sum to be paid within a month of today's date. If the statutory surcharge applies, the appropriate order may be drawn up. You may go down.
There you go. That's it.
I almost feel that I should apologise to.
We ain't doing that. Okay, cool. So that's that. Ghetts. So if you don't know who he is, UK rapper, now, serving 8 years in prison for dangerous driving, unfortunately. All right, I want to move on to another video now. So give me 1 second as I quickly pull this up. And this video, or at least this bit of news, I should say, I call "Thank You, Iran." And I'm not being ironic here, guys. There's a reason why some of you are going to see this as a weird take, okay? But I call this, or at least I'm saying thank you to Iran. Why? Iran at the moment are blitzing the entire Middle East, okay, as a result of the US invading them. So Iran has responded and they're not having it. Okay, I think one of the in fact, can I find the other video when he says he wants to punish Iran? The leaders of Iran, or at least one of their spokespeople, was like, we're not even interested in negotiating with Trump. Trump's talking about, oh no, we want to be kind of in there and out there, we're not going to be an extended war, we just put down your weapons. They're like, we're not interested in negotiating with you, America. I think you've got this twisted. We're not interested. We're going to punish you. We're going to destroy all of the places that you kind of utilize as outposts and proxies, and where you have your bases set up, and where you have your strategic partnerships with these puppets in the Middle East. We're going to destroy each and every single one of them. One of the places that they're enjoying blitzing at the moment is Dubai, because Dubai's defenses, for one reason or another, aren't that great. I have a feeling America's been shipping defenses over to them to kind of help them, but their defenses aren't that great. They're just kind of like a new boy on the scene, a rich nation. Now, like I said, it will sound like a strange take. Why would I be congratulating Iran for this? It's not the reason you think. obviously advocate violence. I do advocate nations defending themselves, and when it comes to this conflict, I'm always going to take Iran's side, even though I don't advocate for either of them. There's no way I'm ever going to take the side of the West, because they are always the belligerent. They are always the wrongdoer in every single conflict that I can think of. There's no conflict that I don't think the West is the wrongdoer, including World War II, but we'll come on to that another day. But what's happening as a result of Westerners, people who are not normally exposed to violence, people whose lives are not normally under threat when these things happening, is people are getting a wake-up call about what war is. Because I don't think people really appreciate what war is. Everyone is okay with, oh, he had to go. You know, that's, oh, he has to go. He's a violent dictator. He has to go. He has to go. It's great. Well, you might not agree with the methods they took, but Saddam had to go. You know how many times I've heard idiots say stuff like that? And I'm like, so you think getting rid of Saddam was worth the lives of 1 million Iraqis? He had to go. He had to go. You think getting rid of Gaddafi was worth the hundreds of thousands of, you know, native Libyans and black people who were either tortured, murdered, or he had to go. Gaddafi had to go. So now you've got Dubai, which is obviously a lovely little safe haven for everybody who can't cut it in the UK. They kind of like run with their tail between their legs and they hightail it off to Dubai, where they're going to live it up in the sun and close their eyes. I used to live in Qatar. You know, you close your eyes to the slavery and the completely two different existences of class, the class divide that exists between poor and rich in the nation of in the nation of the Emirates. You close your eyes to it when you're in the city of Dubai. However, with these bombs dropping now, they are beginning to feel what it's like to be on the recipient. They're being exposed to the terror. They're being exposed to the fear, and it's creating something that I think is really essential viewing for people. All of those people, he had to go, people. If you're one of those, he had to goers, yeah, he was a monster. If you ever used any of those phrases before to justify an American or a UK or a French or any kind of like Western act of belligerence against a African or Middle Eastern nation, if you've ever had those thoughts where you thought, oh, Obama did well, he did well, Obama did well, he's done so well getting rid of those dictators. If you're one of those people who glazed Obama as he warred his way through his time as president of the United States, if you're one of those people, I want you to watch this video, because this is nice. It brings everything home. So let's give this a little bit of a watch.
इमिग्रेशन पे जाओ, वहाँ कैंप लो, वहाँ सेपरेट निकल गए थे, जन आए 5 घंटा गाड़ी गए, वापस आए उतना ही.
So that's people stuck at Dubai airport, in car parks, also in hotels have had to open up as well. People who are literally just stranded in the States. So in Dubai.
So as part of its response to the US and Israel...
So I'm just going to pause it there. And I know I shouldn't laugh, but you can hear that guy crying. You know, it sounds like a Western influence. And I'm not laughing because of that. I am laughing. I'm not laughing because of that. I'm laughing because this is the reality of war. Okay? This is the reality of war. When you think that someone has to go so badly, yeah, and you back your belligerent, warmongering, wicked barbaric nations who want to go in and bomb people out of existence, never want to engage in any level of diplomacy, discussion, anything like that. They just want to show that they're mightier. Not a single British serviceman was wounded in this operation. Not a single American soldier was. This is the reality of what they are doing in those nations. In fact, this is a really small drop in the ocean compared to what the kind of misery that our nations, being the UK, the US, various nations across Europe, what our nations dish out on a daily basis in different nations across the world. Daily. There's not a day that goes by where a bomb doesn't go off in Yemen or Somalia or Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria or Libya. These places haven't seen peace since our nations invaded them. This is the reality of it. Dubai, your little safe haven. Let's see how they're coping. Shout out Cavanacle as well. I kind of like his channel. He's a lefty, but he's a cool guy.
Israeli attacks on the whole of Iran. Iran has been targeting US bases throughout the region and US proxies throughout the region, including Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and part of that has saw Dubai being targeted by Iran. Now, a lot of people online have been celebrating this, saying Dubai absolutely deserves it. Like, it's pretty much the Muslim equivalent of Israel in the Middle East, a country completely built on the backs of South Asian slave labor.
And I can confirm that Dubai is absolutely continuing to be built on the back of South Asian slaves, Southeast Asian maids, Sudanese military. And by the way, Sudan fought for the independence of most of the Middle East. That was led by Sudan. Many people don't know that. Most of the Middle East has Sudan to thank for the fact that they actually are independent from colonial rule. Aside from that note as well, the civil war in Sudan is largely being propagated and funded by Dubai's money. Dubai, who steals all of Sudan's gold, okay, through these illicit trade deals by funding that corrupt regime over there. So Dubai has got blood on its hands. A lot of these nations have blood in their hands. Qatar, right next to Dubai, gave aircraft to the French and the British that ended up bombing Libya. They involved themselves. They said, we are going to involve ourselves with the removal of that African rat you call Gaddafi. Yeah, because they wanted an Islamist, by the way. Qatar wanted an Islamist to be in control. They didn't want a secularist like Gaddafi. So these nations are not innocent. I'm not, once again, calling for the bombardment of Dubai, but I will say, once again, it's nice that people get a nice, realistic view of the misery that they've been exporting. When it comes home, it might be enough to make them consider how they conduct in international diplomacy moving forward.
Rights for most of the population and a colony of Western crypto influencers and just the worst people ever. You even saw extreme Islamophobes like Tommy Robinson and Ant Middleton also surface there recently. So it's like a haven of just the worst scumbags in the entire world, the worst scumbags from the Middle East and the worst scumbags from the West who seek tax havens there. So a lot of people don't have much sympathy that Dubai is under attack. And what has happened is you've seen a lot of influencers also record these attacks happening.
Scared. I'm actually so scared. I'm in JVC right now and I can see. Oh, no. Not meant to be happening here. Can't everyone just chill out? Biggest concern is that people, like, I don't want anyone getting hurt. You know what I mean? Like,
see a little dog whistling there. It's not supposed to be happening here. Oh, no. So it's okay if it happens elsewhere. Did you hear that little undertone? It's not supposed to be happening here. I just want everyone to be safe. No, do you? You just want you to be safe. You just want Dubai to be safe. Let's be real. You could not give a flying shit about people in Iran. yeah, who had to sit through the bombardment of the States. You couldn't care less about them. You just care because you thought your little safe haven, your little cul-de-sac in the Middle East was safe, and you wouldn't have to confront any of this violence. You didn't think it was going to be placed upon you. But there you go. Here it is. You're now sitting in the midst, and you know, right now, I'd say Iran are being relatively careful about the bombardments they're making. I think they bombed the airport and other places. But if Iran start getting sloppy with it, and if Iran start carpet bombing, which is something that the West love to do, it could get really dark really quickly for Dubai. And it will be a real wake-up call. Of people. These nations might decide they want to be neutral. They don't want to be involved in this anymore. They could close their American military bases down and decide, hey, I'm not involved in this. I didn't sign up for this. Iran, we cool. Please stop bombing our nation. We're not involved.
I've been hearing loud explosions sort of like in the background all day. And it's like, the sound, it shakes the windows. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the weirdest sound ever. And now I'm seeing them. This is not fun, guys. We're supposed to be in the safest place. Like, I love the UAE. I love being here.
No one cares about what you love, darling. We're supposed to be in the safest place. No, what she meant to say there was we're supposed to be safe. Yeah, I'm not. My life isn't supposed to be at risk. I don't wear hijab. I don't wear dish dash. Look at me. I'm Western. We shouldn't be exposed to this. I love Dubai, so Dubai should be safe. No, it doesn't work that way, my dear. It doesn't work that way, my dear. The nation that you're in exports the same terror that you are now experiencing. That's the reality of it. And every now and then, the chickens do come home to roost. That's how it works. Yeah, that's life. Well, at least that should be life. Normally, these nations get away with zero consequences, but here we go. Maybe good old Trumpy bit off more than you could chew on this occasion.
Love, I feel so safe all the time, and now I can see it. Like, please, just stop.
No joking, guys. We have just been hit by a drone. We heard it coming. It stinks of oil in here. I didn't even finish my cup of tea. We've just been hit by a drone. We're in Water 1 on the top floor. 19th floor. We're off.
Oh, fuck me. What was that? That one was weird to me because it looked like someone had robbed them. It looked like a drone. And what kind of ammunition was that drone using? What probably happened is maybe a drone went off nearby and it caused the window to shatter and that caused some stuff to fall down, because that didn't look like they'd been hit by anything other than at very, very most a tiny bit of shrapnel might have found its way in.
Shit. That was fucking well close. Oh, I felt that in my heart.
And he's just popping.
Just had a friend on the phone, and apparently that was over the Dubai Marina, which, even though that is a good couple of miles away from where we are, well, you heard how loud it was. The second explosion, that was extremely loud. But that second one, that got my heart racing.
Now, I want to say like one thing from my own personal perspective. I guess what you have to remember, if you have the reactionary impulse of, oh, I am so happy that Dubai is being attacked by Iran and they should attack them more, you have to remember that, like, I'd say probably the majority of Dubai society is like an underclass who are treated absolutely terribly. And when you're seeing all these influencers flee to like car parks in fancy hotels and stuff, you can pretty much be sure those Southeast Asian and South Asian migrant laborers are not getting great treatment and are probably stuck in.
Well, that's an official fact. Okay. In Dubai, they make a very strong point of separating the two classes. They're not even allowed to shop the same days that the Westerners shop. They're not allowed. There's certain days they're not allowed in the major shopping centers. Like, we talk about like profiling. Profiling over there happens massively between that labor class and then that class of Westerners, expats, rich Gulf nation members. The two are treated completely separately. They live in two different worlds. I guarantee you, if you're of the labor class, none of the people in the labor class think Dubai is this great nation that the rich people do. Now, one of the things I remember about living out in that region when I used to live in Qatar is how quickly the Westerners adapt to essentially what is a colonist environment. It's like it feels like a colony when you're there. Okay, it's very real. It's like you can't pretend you don't see it. You know, it feels like a colony. And what I found is how well because I used to work with other Brits there, and how well they adapted. And not only did they adapt, they became an almost how quickly they shed their kind of like human rights, civil rights, regulatory behavior, as a advanced, and I'm a upstanding British citizen, and we believe in human rights. How quickly they shed that, and they just became your average Western person was normally treated their mate worse than the locals did. That's how bad it was. They'd make them work 70, like they've just adapted straight back, readapt. Like it's almost like they'd conduct some colonial veneration to their ancestors, and then invoke the spirit of their their deceased colonist ancestor, and they'll be like, oh, I know what to do now. I know how much to pay my maid. You there, lick my boot. It didn't take much for them to readjust their behavior.
These like really small dormitories, trying not to get killed by the bombs. So I'd say you have to keep that in mind. Like there's a lot of just really poor people, and often in like basically slave labor in Dubai itself, who will be.
In fairness, there's poor people in every conflict zone. It's just the reality of it. There's poor people in every conflict zone. There's people who don't deserve to be there. So, if you're going to support one conflict, or you're going to be indifferent about one conflict. So if you're kind of like, I'm indifferent about Iran, I don't really care what happened, then be indifferent about Dubai as well. Don't feel bad because these people are rich. Who gives a crap that they're rich? Okay, if anything, they probably deserve it more than the people who have been getting it for God knows how long in these regions.
Suffering the most because these rich influencers we've seen, the UK government are trying to sort flights for them to get home. So the people fleeing the country won't be the Filipino maids going back to the Philippines. It won't be the Nepalese construction workers. It won't be any of these people. It'll be rich British crypto bros going home first.
I would be terrified to get in a plane right now. I don't know if I would. I would be absolutely terrified to get in a plane right now. But what do you do if you're trapped in Dubai? That is the question, isn't it? What do you do if you're trapped in Dubai right now? Because I don't know. Even if they did say, oh yeah, your flights are back on, I'll be like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get back in that plane. God knows what could happen. They bombed the airport. That's off-putting enough for me.
This has done is showed the propaganda around Dubai is pretty much farcical. I saw this quote on Al Jazeera by a Saudi official. America has abandoned us and focused its defense systems on protecting Israel, leaving the Gulf states that host its military bases at the mercy of Iranian drones and missiles. And I guess it's just been something that crypto bros and the worst kind of influencers have never really thought about, that America's priority in the Middle East is Israel. All these Gulf monarchies, they don't really give a shit about it, apart from them being either people who buy arms from them or just proxies for Western imperialism. And I've also saw someone speculate that the reason Iran is hitting these countries so hard is that they are fairly defenseless at the scale of the Iranian military and navy, that they can target these countries and basically hit whatever they want, where in places like Israel and Saudi Arabia more so, there's a way more efficient defense against things like missiles. So it's a way for them, in terms of bargaining, to be like, we're just going to keep hitting Dubai. Like, we know there's loads of Western money there. We know that they're Western allies. We know they're influential in your own politics, the UK, France, and America. So we're going to keep hitting DE. Is complicit and massively responsible for so much of the brutal violence going on in Sudan right now. And like I said, already is this petro-slave state inhabited by the worst scum in the West. And now it's being attacked by a country that is being attacked by the worst countries in the world. So Iran is being attacked by Israel and the US, the two most evil countries in the world. And in response is attacking Dubai and attacking Israel. You can see why people are siding with Iran in this context. But I just want to show you some footage coming out of it. Ian Miles Chong, who is another far-right influencer who apparently is living in Dubai, he's just going about his life as normal. He's at
I think that's enough of this video, actually. I want to show you another one because this one really was quite... It refers to that Iranian journalist that I was telling you about and his entire rhetoric towards the US. Actually, I quite liked. You know, it was a complete lack of... it was a complete lack of respect. You know, it didn't show any regard to the US/UK hegemony. He was just like, you know, screw them. Like they're gonna feel the thunder. I thought this was a really good video. Watch this guy because he comes with the smoke. But I think this is what people want to see more of when these nations decide they're going to invade these, you know, these kind of like, yeah, the global east, so to speak, Africa and, you know, Asia, the Middle East. When the West decides they're going to invade these nations, no one ever does nothing. No one ever kind of stands up to them. So hearing someone come with a little bit of that smoke is always nice. It's nice for me to hear. Nice and unexpected. But anyway, let me let it play.
Willie D Live.
What's up, family? Remember when I told y'all a while back that everybody ain't playing, and just because you're a bully and you're bigger and you appear to be badder and you got more resources and more might, that you're not going to intimidate everybody? Everybody's not going to be afraid of you? Well, it looks like that's what's going on right now with America, Israel, and Iran. Iran is not backing down, fam. In fact, Iran has not just decided to fight back against the United States. Iran is fighting back against the world. Anybody that's rocking with the United States, anybody that has assets in the United States or U.S. assets in their country, Iran is targeting them. They are on a rampage. They are sending missiles in every direction. America is losing its war again. America is losing the war. I want to show y'all somebody. This is Mohammad Marandi. Mohammad Marandi is an American-Iranian academic, intellectual, and political analyst. He is closely linked to the Iranian government. London-based newspaper,
shout out Willie D, by the way,
Iran International, describes him as a mouthpiece of the Iranian government. He is described on his website as a prominent Iranian defender of the Islamic Revolution. I want you to pay attention to what he had to say.
Has been targeting U.S. assets in the Persian Gulf, and those assets could be anything that's linked to the United States. The United States is bombing hospitals. The United States is bombing schools. The United States is bombing Iranian national radio and television alongside the Israeli regime. So U.S. assets in the Persian Gulf, they too will be attacked.
All right, first of all, before I go any further, shouts out to Larry Reed, give him his credit. This is where I saw this story at on his Instagram. Let me tell you something, fam. As he said, America is bombing everything. The U.S. is bombing schools.
Let's go skip.
But yeah, they're the ones, they don't want to talk about bombing those schools, about bombing those hospitals, killing incapacitated patients. elderly patients, children, people who are immobile.
Shout out to the chat, by the way. I haven't given you guys a shout out for a little while. Shout out Stephen. He had to go. It's true. I'm so sick of people. Like, I'm gonna put on a video after this one, by the way, where it typifies everything that I was saying just before this. So I'm gonna let this video play through because like this guy comes with the smoke. All right. But the video I'm gonna play after this, it typifies everything I'm saying about the usual idiotic, brain dead, pundit slash British pundit slash analyst slash political commentator who never ever condemns any of the wicked things these imperialists ever do. There's never any condemnation for them. It's always justified. It's always like the deaths of millions of people is always justified for regime change. The regime needed to change. He had to go. The price of it was big. I didn't agree with the methods, but I agreed with the outcome. Like, all of this crap you hear them say to justify their stupidity. Think about the war they've started just so they could murder a grown, old man, an old religious icon. Yeah. Call it what you want. Oh, he murdered 45. I don't believe you. Yeah, I don't believe you. He murdered 40,000 people this week. Bollocks. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You say that all the time. You said that about Saddam, and then you didn't do anything to produce the truth behind it. You always come up with these numbers and these. Oh yeah, he murdered 600,000 people by gas chamber, this, that, and the other. It's kind of like, well, you're pulling them. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You've just murdered an old religious icon in a nation because they don't want to play ball with you. You don't care when you have true dictators. Every single Gulf state is ruled by a dictator. Every single Gulf state. None of the Gulf states are democracies, in case you didn't know that, guys. Yeah, the Emirates, yeah, is ruled by an emir. Yeah, Qatar is ruled by an emir. Yeah, Bahrain is ruled by a king. Abu Dhabi, what's the other one? No, Abu Dhabi is in the Emirates. Bahrain's ruled by an emir. Saudi Arabia is ruled by a king or prince. Like, all of these places, they're all dictatorships. And it's not even like their royalty has extends back into antiquity where it's kind of legitimized. These are all like first, second generation rulers who they'll just put in place as puppets by the West. Yeah, none of them are legitimate. It's just, these are just dictatorships. They're fine with dictatorships. All the places they've gone in and erased the leaders or murdered the people. The bottom line is, you might not like the Ayatollah. Yeah, you might not like the Ayatollah. The Iranian people chose the Ayatollah. The Iranian people chose to have Ayatollahs over them. They weren't placed there like puppets. That was the result of a revolution. The Ayatollahs were the result of a revolution to remove a fake dictatorship monarchy that you had placed in Iran. So this is the thing. You're trying to flip the script, reverse it, and act like what you're bringing is democracy. No, what you're bringing is whatever serves your greedy, wicked purposes. It's got nothing to do with the Iranian people. It's got nothing to do with democracy. You're just a wicked bunch of barbarian, backwards, savage, troglodyte, beastly, imperialist thugs who go around murdering people who don't do the things you want them to do. That's it. You've never installed a better system of governance in a nation that you once ruled. You've always worsened it. You've always made it more corrupt. That's what they do. Anyway.
They can't even run if they try.
But assets that belong to the states in the Persian Gulf region, they have not been touched by the Iranians. However, if they host U.S. forces, because many of the soldiers have left their bases and been taken to hotels, the Iranians will target them. So at the end of the day, if they want this problem to end, they have to expel soldiers of the Epstein regime.
Could a new leader, do you think?
I love the fact that they call it the Epstein regime. That is such a brilliant descriptive term that kind of typifies this US slash those who shall not be mentioned, this alliance between those two groups, the Epstein regime, because that's what happens when these two nations put their best and their brightest together and they do what comes most naturally. What do you get out of that? Epstein. That's what they produce. These two wicked nations. That is a perfect picture of exactly what they produce when they're unfettered, when there's no shackles and there's nothing holding them back. They will produce an entire population of Epsteins. The Epstein regime. Perfect. I love it.
Negotiate with Trump and agree to his terms.
No, Iran is not interested in negotiating with Trump or the US regime. Iran is going to punish the United States.
That's bars. We've got to bring that back in case you guys missed that. He said it with a smile as well.
With Trump and agree to his terms.
No, Iran is not interested in negotiating with Trump or the US regime. Iran is going to punish the United States.
Bars.
Iran is not interested in negotiating with Trump or the United States. Iran is going to punish the United States. Well, think about this, fam. For those of you who think that Iran perhaps is acting irrationally, you're sitting at a table negotiating a truce. You're having so-called peace talks. This is a conversation you're having with the other side to avoid.
So, you know, I love Willie D normally, but just for the sake of the pace of this, I just want to kind of skip ahead to the guy talking because I just want to hear some more of them direct bars. And you don't want to hear two people giving commentary on the same thing, do you? So I'm just going to kind of skip over what you said there. Excuse me.
Would you trust that person?
And we are in the process of doing it. This regime in Washington has tried to cross a bridge that's a bridge too far. And they're messing with the wrong country. We're not Venezuela, we're not Iraq, we're not Libya, we're not Afghanistan, and we're not Syria. This is the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we will make sure that the United States regrets the aggression against the Iranian people and the slaughter of children and the slaughter of innocent civilians and the murder of the leader. These are crimes against humanity, and the United States and its allies have imposed the law of the jungle upon the world.
And he's totally right here. And the thing is that the media will never draw an attention on these, you know, like that girls' school that they blew up. I think it was 90 little girls who lost their life in Iran. They'll never draw attention to that. It reminds me actually one time, if you haven't done it, by the way, the Snowden files, the whistleblower files, you can still find them. There was one set of footage I watched, but I'm not sure if it's still available. And it was called Collateral Murder. See if you can find it. It might be difficult to find. I said earlier I don't watch snuff videos, and I guess this would qualify. These were war videos that I did watch. I watched quite a few of them. And I think it was important for me to watch them because I think it's tempered a lot of the way I feel about war and the way I feel about US imperialism. Because I watched these decades ago now. And the one that I watched, Collateral Murder, you see a multi-story building, okay? And this happens on multiple occasions. You see a multi-story building. I'm talking like maybe 10 stories, something like that. Okay, so it wasn't like a massive high-rise, between 10 and 20 stories, multi-story building, filled with people, okay? One of those packed kind of like Middle Eastern buildings, you know what I mean? With just, yeah, just massive building. And you see a soldier, okay? I say soldier. You see a man with what appears to be a gun walk inside, and another man with what appears to be a gun walk outside that building. And you hear the US soldier who's controlling what I can only assume was a drone or something along that kind of technology. say, yeah, we got a military presence here. And then, do I have permission to take it down? Yeah, take it out. And then you just see him blow up the entire building. I kid you not. Blows up the entire building. That building had hundreds of people in it. Bear in mind as well, if you've not lived in the Middle East or Africa before, seeing buildings with people holding AK-47s walking in and out of is not unusual. The last time I stayed in a hotel in Nigeria, all of the guards had AK-47. They weren't even police, they were just guards. Seeing people carry heavy armory in the Middle East and Africa is not a big deal. It doesn't automatically qualify them as a soldier. That being said, even if there was the chance that these two people that this guy had seen were soldiers, that didn't suddenly mean that everybody in that building's life was worthless. He knew he was going to commit literally a mass slaughter beyond the realms of like, and this kind of thing went on in Iraq constantly. This is why we had a death toll of 1 million. People who think that that death toll has got anything to do with soldiers, you think, oh yeah, well, it was mainly soldiers. There wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was mainly civilians, because this is how America, the US, UK, NATO, France, all this is how they fight wars. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care about a building full of people. When he killed Khamenei, we know about Khamenei dying. How many people died alongside Khamenei? How many of his bodyguards died? How many people who were just in the same proximity as him died? How many innocent people who were walking or just in that building that he was in died? Probably loads. Probably loads. But they do not care. The West doesn't care, because the last time a bomb dropped in the UK was the Blitzkrieg. Okay, apart from obviously the terrorist acts of the IRA and what happened in Lockerbie, whatever. That's, you know, bombs don't really go off in the UK. Bombs don't go off in the US unless it's normally their own domestic terrorists. This is the issue. This is why the people of these nations have become so desensitized, so utterly desensitized.
And they will come to regret it.
But Iran is not a military superpower either, and we're seeing the vast majority of drones and missiles being shot down by air defenses. I mean, you know, surely Iran cannot win a military war and therefore has to go for some other kind of strategy in coming to a settlement.
Iran will defeat the United States. Time will tell. And our drones that are being fired are very old drones. Our missiles that are being fired are very old missiles. They're very inexpensive. And Americans are using up very expensive air defense systems. The Iranians know exactly what they're doing. We haven't even begun using our latest technology, and most of Iran's underground bases have not even been used yet. They have not even been opened up for operation. The Iranians have been planning for this day ever since the invasion of Iraq. They knew that at some point the Epstein regime will go after Iranians, and therefore they've been preparing themselves for many years. We are fighting for our homeland and our sovereignty and our independence, and our crime is that we oppose the genocide that the British regime and the American regime and Western regimes have been supporting.
So if you check out what he just said there, if you the war, for them to win the war, they don't need to. Iran is not invading the US. Iran is not invading Europe. Iran is not invading anyone. And so I think one of the things that is important to contextualize is, like, similar to Vietnam. Vietnam wasn't invading America or any of America's bases. Okay, it's always the West who are the belligerent force who are invading. So for them to win the war, they essentially have to beat the current rulers into submission. They didn't make any favors or make any friends getting rid of Khomeini. It didn't weaken the current political leadership. It didn't change anything other than the fact that you've killed the equivalent of their friggin' pope or whatever. You know, that's all you did. Now, in order for you to win this war, all of that governorship has to be changed. Okay. And you have to get the, you know, a majority of the people on your side, which is like, yeah, good luck after blowing up a school full of, you know, full of school age girls. You know, you're not going to get that. So there's the probability that the only hope. So when you hear Trump saying stuff like, you know, put down your weapons and we'll let you off, we don't want to have to bomb you anymore. That's a desperation call. That's a hope. They are desperately hoping that they just go, yeah, it's true. No, don't do anything. They're hoping that they do a Venezuela and just roll over and show their belly. It's very unlikely. They have no reason to do that. So they're just entering a situation. It's more of a case of, it's not that Iran can't lose the war. It's more a case of, this is a very difficult war to be won. It's a difficult war to win. You don't always have to be invading people. I think people in the West find that difficult to comprehend. You can go a decade or two, you know, God forbid, you know, half a century, and just decide you're not going to invade anybody else. You know, you don't always have to be murdering someone. Why are they so afraid? It's like that microcosm of white male fragility that you see on an independent level, that fear to compete, it reflects itself. Have you noticed how it projects itself onto a macrocosmic scale? So onto a national scale, the nations in the West behave exactly like the individuals in the West. That's crazy, isn't it? So the individual Western male doesn't want to compete. He wants to get rid of all the competition or kneecap all of his competition. He wants access to the best things. He doesn't want to pay for them. He just wants to have a life without friction because he deserves it, because I'm a white male and I shouldn't have to fight or compete with anyone. I don't want you guys having, I don't want any equal playing field. And then when you look on a national level, you have the nations behaving in exactly the same way. Well, I could be diplomatic and I could do fair trade agreements and I could pay you the right amount for these goods and those goods, but it's much easier for me to just invade you. I don't want to pay for those things. I don't want to compete with China and Russia and X and Y and Z for resources and material. We could do that, or we could just pull out our guns and say, we have the biggest gun and therefore you're going to give us what we want, or we're going to invade your nation. Isn't it funny how the nations act exactly like the, you know, constituents that exist within inside the nation? Isn't that interesting? They are literally a mirror of each other. White male fragility on an individual level is reflected on a macrocosmic level, on a macrocosmic scale, on a national level. You have white male national fragility and white male individual fragility, literally showing exactly the same behavior. And I don't mean to sound, you know, as I know people are, oh, I'm not trying to sound racist. This is just the reality. Okay, these are white males conducting this behavior. Okay, so I'm sorry if that hits too close to home for people, because in the UK, if you say the word white, you're being racist. No, I'm not. They are white males. These are fragile white males ruining the world on a macro level and ruining the world on a micro level, and then blaming everybody else. All the problems in the world are black people. All the problems in the world are Muslims and black people. All the problems in the world, but they're the ones who have all the aggression on a microcosmic and a macrocosmic level. It's always them who are, you know, pulling the gun out. I would like to say metaphorically, but I'm being quite literal there. Always them who are pulling out the gun to solve the problem. Interesting that. Let me show you another video. You can check this one out if you want to. It's on Willie D's channel, Willie D Live. Shout out Willie D. That's a bad boy channel he's got there. But let me quickly show you this one, because this is a perfect illustration of what I was just discussing here with you guys. This is that idiocracy level of thinking that you see enacted in the UK. constantly. This is how people talk. And this is why the UK will constantly find itself in these conflicts, willfully find itself in these conflicts. They prefer to be in these conflicts than to not be in them. Let me just quickly put it in theater mode. Come on. There we go. This is moving so slow. It's painful to look at. Goodness me.
He just seems so certain about this war. It's a great triumph for democracy and American arms, which will bring us a much more peaceful world. It's a looming disaster which will send the whole region into chaos and spread recession towards the rest of us. Well, tonight, I just want to speak out against self-righteousness by bringing you a confession. It's about me and the Iraq War. From the beginning, I was against the Iraq War, but for the wrong reasons. I thought that Saddam's military would be mighty and would kill too many of our own people. I argued with ministers and...
Did you hear that? So he was against the Iraq War, but remember what I said earlier. Not for any, this is someone who should be knowledgeable about these things, yeah? He's not against the Iraq War because he's worried about the amount of innocent people that are going to die. He's not against the Iraq War because he's bringing into question whether or not, the fact that it was an illegal war and it wasn't, sanctioned by international law. The fact that the accusations being brought against Iraq were false. No, none of that. He's just worried that British servicemen will die. Saddam is going to be mighty and we don't want any of our people to die. So therefore I'm against the war. That straight away is the wrong reason. And this is why it was so easy for people like him to be placated. I call these people idiots, respectfully. I call people like this idiots. You can talk with the most posh accent you want. This guy is a complete and utter moron. And not only is he moronic, he has no humanity. Zero humanity. He's happy for us to go to war if it means that we don't lose any of our servicemen. Here's what I'm talking about when we were watching the Dubai video. There's people who are, oh, the bombs dropping. Oh my God, this shouldn't be happening here. He's fine for the concept of war because it's a foreign concept that happens outside of anything that he actually experiences on a daily basis. So he's 100% fine with the death toll of war. He's 100% fine with the people that are going to lose their lives as a result of war. All of that he is absolutely fine with. He has no problem with whatsoever. But English servicemen losing their lives, that's why I have to draw the line. Not a single white British male should lose their life for this conflict. That's all he cares about. Doesn't care about anything else. Doesn't care about anything else. Idiot.
Labour MPs before the war, and I lost friendships. Then, the war, in a military sense, like this one so far, was a triumphant success. I overcorrected.
So the war was a triumphant success, not because people didn't die, because we both know that over a million people, some say around 2 million, but I'm not sure what the exact figure is, people died in the Iraq war. That's an unfathomable number of deaths. Okay, even if it was 10,000, that would have been a failure of a war. But 1 million, we're looking at a catastrophic failure. But it's a triumphant success because the casualties for the UK were kept to a minimum. That's what he calls a triumphant success. Once again, this is an example of an idiocracy. With people like this who are presenting themselves as the intelligentsia, presenting themselves as the moderate thinking class, what hope does the average Brit have? This man unostensibly is a moron, an absolute idiot, a real piece of shit. If you listen to the things he's saying, I listen between the lines. This is a horrible human being. And I'm going to be very condemning about him for the way he's talking. I don't care that he looks like the big friendly giant and he's got those big goofy ears and I'm just a polite, nice Englishman. He is literally supporting the deaths of black and brown people in their millions, and he will support it to the helm as long as it doesn't lead to the deaths of white people. That is a devil. That's a devil.
And when anti-Saddam crowds were cheering in Baghdad and pulling down his statue, I lauded Tony Blair as the leader who had proved his critics wrong. Too early, too damn early, because then came the civil war, the terrible loss of civilian life and the hideous growth of ISIS, put together one of the great disasters during my lifetime. Right from the start, the danger signals had been there. The wiser heads in the Foreign Office and the US State Department.
Wiser heads, he says. So the wiser heads saw it. How old was I when the Iraq war started? I don't want to confess right now, but I knew it was a bad idea. I didn't have the wisdom of decades of existence behind me. I hadn't read 5 million books, but I did know the sound of invading a nation that had no connection to 9/11, had nothing to do with any of that stuff that took place, was just minding its own business. And I was able to read between the lines at that very young age of mine that this sounds like it's for oil. This sounds like it's to secure mineral resources and wealth. This sounds like it's really conceited and selfish and planned. This is what this sounds like. I didn't think it was. I wasn't some super intelligent, reading between the lines investigator. Any moron could have seen that. So I feel like you saw what you wanted to see. You were convinced because you were excited by the prospect of your nation invading another nation because you thought it would make your life a little bit easier. That is your typical Brit. And then after the fact, after the genocide's being committed, you're going to sit there and go, woeful. I wish I never supported it. I wish I'd done better. Do you really wish that?
Department warning that you couldn't simply go into a country as big and divided as Iraq and turn it by arms into a peaceful, thriving democracy, Minnesota with palm trees. I heard those messages. I even reported them.
And any idiot at this point would ask the question, when has the UK ever delivered that? When has the UK ever gone into a nation, removed the ruling regime, and replaced it with a beautiful, thriving democracy? When has that ever been the goal, and when have you ever achieved that? I'll answer for you, never. It's not happened in the history of this nation. So why would you think it was a possibility? Why would you even think it was a workable plan?
But somehow I didn't really take them in. And I'm telling this story tonight about how wrongly I called the Iraq War, because it reminds me that ahead of us again today, there's a long line of great unknowns. We are at the beginning of something in Iran, many miles from the end game, and it is far too early to form the kind of swaggering, fist-pumping victory dance that Pete Hegseth, the US Defense Secretary, is currently enjoying. And it's also far too early to insist that this must all end in another Middle East disaster. Keir Starmer has to take decisions. Again today, he's being savagely attacked for them. The rest of us, you, me, him down the pub, have the luxury of being able to exercise caution and self-doubt. Let us not pretend a certainty that is fundamentally dishonest. My next guest, the then International Development Secretary Claire Short, resigned from Tony Blair's cabinet over that, and she joins me now. Claire, very good to have you on the show. You'll have heard Hamish Faulkner there. Do you see signs of mission creep here already?
I see.
Well, first of all, to have mission creep, you have to have a mission to begin with. The one thing that's not being clear, or at least they've been deliberately opaque with, is the fact that what is the plan here? What was the plan in bombing? Was it regime change? Well, no, because you made no attempt to usher in a new cabinet. You've made these words to the Iranian people: rise up, overthrow your leaders. Like this is flipping Sparta or something, like moronic calls to the nation. Like what are you trying to prove here? What's also interesting is this guest that they got on here, Claire Short, who allegedly resigned over the Iraq war or left Tony Blair's cabinet, although I'd like to read between the lines. This woman is responsible for one of the biggest problems in UK African relations in history. Claire Short, I believe, was the I'm not sure if she was the foreign secretary or if she just worked in the kind of like the international department, but she was essentially dealing with Zimbabwe. And I've mentioned this before, when the 1998 land reforms happened directly because of this woman. This woman is what forced Mugabe and co. to take the Zimbabwean land back by force, because unlike the West, Africans will always seek diplomacy, first of all. In fact, all nations will seek diplomacy. It's only the West who don't seek diplomacy. It's only the West who will go straight to violence. And prior to the land reforms, Britain was supposed to fulfill a promise in 1997 to the Zimbabwean people about the transfer of land from the British, who owned, I think it was 98% of the land at one point, 98% of the arable land, to transfer it back to the Zimbabwean people over a period of transfers. There would be remuneration, but it was an entire agreement that Zimbabwe had made with the then ruling conservative government. But it doesn't matter which government you make it in. It's signed. It's a signed piece of paper. Britain will hand back X, Y, and Z amount of land, and all Zimbabwean government did is turned up, contacted Britain and said, okay, we need to fulfill that agreement. We've hit that date. Start transferring the land. Do you know what this witch on the screen said? Because he's an African, obviously, and they don't respect Africans whatsoever. This witch said, oh, whatever agreement you made, it wasn't with us. It was with the last government. We don't need to fulfill the promises made by a previous government. Consider it a new deal, a new agreement, and we don't recognize your land transfer. And there you have it. Moment in history. Well done, Claire Short. You just started the land reforms. Because Mugabe turned around and said, oh, so we're not doing this diplomacy thing here. There'll be no discussion. Okay, you must have forgotten. We're here right now. And we ain't South Africans. We'll take that shit back. Thank you very much. And that's exactly what they did. Yeah, they took their land back. Yeah, they took their land back and they kicked you off in, I would say, one of the most successful land transfers in history. And yes, a lot of people don't see it that way. But I've mentioned before how few people lost their life during the land reforms. There was almost complete transfer, exactly what was needed in that nation. And the only reason that nation's economy suffered was because of the IMF sanctions that went against that nation, and the basically manipulated externally that nation's exchange rate to make it almost worthless overnight. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they made it illegal for any nation to trade with Zimbabwe. So they did everything they could to make the Zimbabwean state suffer and fail. Similar to what they did to Haiti. Okay, remember when they have this hate boner against nations in Africa, this is the kind of things that they'll do. They know how to manipulate these systems around them. But to be clear, that is Claire Short. So this woman who's sitting here now, this is the thing, they'll give you these people and you're supposed to admire them. Oh, Claire Short, who left the cabinet because she was against the Iraq war. Claire Short, that one thing she did against Zimbabwe should destroy her reputation. No one should be interested in anything this woman has to say. She is irrelevant to me because I know she doesn't respect Africans. She never turned around once and apologized for that, for starting the land reforms. She's been responsible for so much suffering. All of that suffering could have been avoided had this woman not been the arrogant little Brit that she was.
Fudge. I mean, there's absolutely no question in international law that the attack on Iran by Israel and the US was completely illegal, and there's no way around that. And
oh, international law. She cares about international law now. I didn't care about international law when it came to Zimbabwe, did she? these hypocrites cannot help themselves, literally.
Every serious authority agrees. And Starmer, for the first time, and all credit to him, said, no, we're not joining in. We believe in international law. And I thought, at last, Starmer's standing up to America. It's not just, kowtowing again and again. But then we get all this muddle and fudge we've got now because Britain's so entangled with the US and so entangled with the idea that it makes us important to have what we call a special relationship, but not very many people in the US do. They call Israel their special relationship. And you'll get...
Shout out to her for that note, because the UK is thoroughly the US's bitch. Let's just be honest about it. That's basically what she was saying there. Well, we have a special relationship. That's what British Prime Minister be saying for ages now. You're just a bitch. Yeah, you just get called upon to kind of like lessen the blow, to dampen the criticism. They call the UK to come along with them, and the UK being the corrupt oligarchy that it is, always has a body of MPs who are ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with the US in whatever debauchery they're committing, to legitimize their illegal wars and to make them seem a little bit more, palatable on the international, on the international scene. It's ironic here. This whole idea of international law is such a joke. Okay, you've got Netanyahu, who I think is wanted by the ICC for war crimes. Okay, you've got Donald Trump, who's broken international law twice now, which should also mean that he's answerable to the international criminal courts. Do you ever see them picking up any of these leaders? No. When you're a black African leader, yeah, they'll find a grubby looking diamond and be like, yeah, you blood diamond, you're going on trial, yeah. Mr. Taylor, you're gonna do 50 years in prison. This, when you're an African leader, your head's always gonna be on the chopping board. It don't matter what you do. Yeah. And it's funny because we're seeing all these parallels. It's exactly how they treat black people in the street. You know what I mean? Like these white people can commit the most heinous crimes and totally get away with them, like we're seeing with the Epstein files, yeah. But then a black person is just freaking, jaywalking, could do 5 years. And that's the same with the ICC. We got freaking Trump running around, starting wars, kidnapping leaders, dropping bombs, assassinating people like a friggin' rogue terror organization, treating his nation like a terror organization. No consequences. Okay, but you'll see, trust me, any of these black or Southern American or Middle Eastern nations, if their leaders sneeze incorrectly, they'll find themselves in the ICC. It's hilarious.
Getting all this fudging now. I mean, if it was wrong to attack, then it's wrong to give America the authority to use our bases to continue to attack. And I understand that the president of Cyprus said, yes, we want you to protect us, but we don't want you authorizing America to attack from Cyprus. So we're now in a muddle again. And it's, I mean, to be fair to Starmer and co., Britain is up to its neck. It's military coordination, it's intelligence coordination with the American alliance. And we need to start disentangling, and it can't be done overnight, and that would be a difficult process. But rather than fight, given the situation in Europe as well, and this is an issue for all European powers too, we should be more clear about where we're going. That's where we go, and our job is to have a defensive arrangement in Europe. And then I have to say, what is the base in Cyprus really for? For America to, attack Gaza? What is the Diego Garcia for? It's so that America gets access to the Middle East. I mean, we could save some money.
And it's funny she's naming these different bases that the British have, like the base in Cyprus. It's for America. Diego Garcia is for America. Diego Garcia is another interesting story because Diego Garcia is actually a part of the Chagos Islands. And the Chagosians are native black people of the Indian Ocean. Okay, there are many native black groups in the Indian Ocean, but the Chagos Islanders are the native people of Diego Garcia, who have been kicked off their island by the British, who wanted to use that island as a military base. And Britain's argument for kicking them off the island is to say, oh, the only reason those Chagos Islanders are there is because we brought them over as slaves. The Chagos Islanders are like, are you mad? This is literally our ancestral land. Yeah, and they've been fighting this in court against the British for a long time to be relocated back to Diego Garcia. And I think they've been compensated some money, but the British still own that island. Imagine their entire home is owned by the British, so they can keep it as a military base. And these indigenous black people of the Indian Ocean are being told that they were slaves that were brought there. This is the kind of constant disrespect that the global melanated indigenous have to endure over and over again. It's so tiring, man. These people are such a headache, honestly.
Money, focus, have a clearer strategy. So Starmer was brave for a bit, and now we're back into fudge because we don't dare to disagree with the US.
Claire, I started the show by mentioning the Iraq War and how I had got things wrong in analysing that. And I remember very well your resignation from the cabinet. Now, this war is in many ways very, very different. No, Boot?
I got things wrong through analysing it incorrectly. If you weren't such a freaking closet imperialist, you wouldn't have got anything wrong. Anyone with an ounce of humanity doesn't take rocket science to call a war correctly before it starts. Do you think the US and the UK should invade XYZ? No. There, simple answer. I don't know, this place here that has a should we? No. There's your answer. No, we shouldn't invade. Should you ever? No, you should never invade, because you've never made any place better. You've only ever enriched wicked white people and made them richer and more wicked. That's all you've ever done. You've never improved anywhere ever in the literal history of recorded of anything being recorded. All you've done is made things worse. You're trying to sit here and have this intelligent debate about the logistics and the well, maybe perhaps if we change our tactics this time to like you've ever done anything good. It's like the ultimate gaslight. You're literally like friggin' Sir Clegane of Game of Thrones. Imagine if he, like, the mountain in the Game of Thrones. Imagine if he was just sitting there, but he had an intellectual voice, and he used to sit there pontificating about whether or not he should. You're a barbarian. You just murder and grape and kill people. That's literally what you've done throughout your history. You've never done anything. Imagine sitting there pontificating, I don't know if I should get involved in this conflict. Or like, what are you talking about? You're freaking evil, demonic, murdering people. There's nothing you've ever done that's enhanced anything for anyone. So it's a simple answer. You're sitting here having this kind of back and forth, discussing the merits and the downsides of Tony Blair and this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, in reality, all you've done is invade and murder and genocide. That's all you've ever done. You've never done any good. There's no good you've done. No one wants to thank you. Well, I'd like to thank the British for, it's funny when the British want to harp on about how great they are. They always go back to the railroads. The railroads in Africa. Well, if it weren't for us, look at the infrastructure we built in Africa. Now, there's no roads for them to shout. I was talking about the railroads. Look at the railroads you built in Africa. You mean those big giant railroads that you built connecting African nations so you could transport your loot from one colony to the next and then get it to the coastline and ship it over to the UK? Those big one single railroads that you built for transporting loot, which have fallen into disrepair because guess what? Africans didn't really need massive railroads going from one nation to the next to transport stolen loot. And guess what? They fell into disrepair. Oh, if it wasn't for us, look at all the railroads you built. And is that it? That's your contribution of colonialism. I even hear sometimes some stupid Africans repeating it. They left us with so much infrastructure. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They didn't even build half the hospitals. That's Africans who built those. They didn't build chisel. They came, they extracted, they took, and they left. And then they left puppets in charge as well. And then when we tried to elect good leaders, they killed them and put their puppets back in rule again. That's what they did. That's what they do. That's the only thing they do. They have no upside. You have no more. People are wise enough now to pick up books, to read the news and read history. You can't fool the world anymore. You can try your best on these news outlets to make it seem like you are the greater good. Oh, the greater good. Oh, the West is the greater good. Yes, we are the, well, at the end of the day, we have to weigh this up. Well, do you want Saddam, or do you want good old Western democrat Saddam? Any day of the week. Yeah, I want Saddam. Yeah, that's what I want. I want Saddam. Do you want Gaddafi? Gaddafi. Thank you very much. Do you want Ayatollah Khamenei, or do you want? I'll take the Ayatollah. Ayatollah for £200. Yeah, we never want you. We don't want you. You're evil. You don't make anything better. Jesus, Lord.
It's on the ground. No overt discussion of regime change. But nonetheless, the leader has been...
There has been discussion of regime change by Bush. But there has been discussion of regime change by Bush, but not boots on the ground.
Yeah. Okay, but this time round, Trump seems, put it politely, confused as to what the ultimate end game is. And I'm just interested in your view of what's the likely outcome of what's going on in Iran. Are we going to end up with a more Pacific, pro-Western country, or are we going to end up with something that's actually worse than we've seen before?
Who cares if it's... See, do you see how he can't help but slip back into his demonism? He can't help but slip back into his demonic ways. Are we going to end up with a nation that's more pro-Western? Was that the most important thing to you here? Can you see how they can't even help it? Are we going to end up with a nation that's more pro-Western, or even more deeply entrenched in Islam than the current? Why is that your number one concern? Shouldn't your number one concern be, are we going to have a nation that's safer for the Iranian people? Shouldn't your number one concern be, are we going to have a nation that's improved and, where people can, live better lives? Are we going to have someone who's more respectful of human life? Nope. All they care about is whether or not the person they put in charge is more pro-Western. That person could be a genocidal maniac, as you can see across the Gulf states. That person could be a dictator. That person could be a despot. That person could be a complete and utter, literally live like a spending trillions. Everyone is glazing. I watch boxing. This is, a guy called Turki Al-Sheikh who's spending billions on boxing. Where do you think his billions come from? Do you think he's worked for that? Do you think Turki Al-Sheikh is this great friggin', he's a businessman and he owns all of this, that, and the other, property mogul? No, he's just taken the state money, the Saudi Arabian oil money, because he's a part of the oligarchy, he's a part of he's part of the monarchy. All right, so he's a prince. He gets the money and it goes into his account, billions. He's got more money than he can spend. When I was in Qatar, I used to teach the royal family. So I used to teach the emir's kids. And one day he came in, I remember one of the emir's sons came in and said, "Sir, I wrote off my Ferrari today." And he was laughing about it, showing his friends photos. He literally just come from an accident where he wrote off his Ferrari against the lamp. Well, he was fine. But his Ferrari was written off, okay? And I just thought, it'll be good to live. Be good to live. But these people, they're spending money that isn't theirs. These aren't good people. I'm not saying they're all evil, but don't act like you care about dictators and despots and people who spurn national wealth, and you don't care. You don't care. These people are really, really the wickedest of them all. Shout out Dregger, my 6'5". I'm never gonna forget that now. My 6'5", 230-pound brethren. Shout out to you for your donation. This is bless up to all of my cousins. Shout out to you. Thank you for joining us.
Nobody knows the clear answer to that. I think we're going to end up with lots of dead Iranians. We say we're doing this to help Iranians, but they're suffering and scared and seeing their buildings being destroyed. 1,000 dead so far, and it isn't over.
Shout out Claire Short. First decent thing I've heard in this exchange. Shout out to you. Yes, it's not about us, it's about the people. Okay?
So lots of chaos. And then there's all talk of the Americans arming the Kurds, so that's encouraging civil war. So I think the danger is very chaotic, lots and lots of suffering for the Iranian people.
And chaos, by the way, is what the West thrives on. That's what they wanted to instill in Iraq. That's what they wanted to still. Everyone thinks those wars were failures. Those wars did exactly what the people who funded those wars wanted them to do. They instilled chaos. And in the environment of chaos, the one thing that thrives more than anything is exploitation. That's why right now, Dubai are funding chaos in Sudan. They're not trying to fund, you know, the success of one side or the other. They're trying to fund the chaos of war. Because in the chaos of war, people still siphon and sell for cheap. In the chaos of conflict in Iraq, the oil is stolen, is siphoned, and is sold off for cheap. In the chaos and conflict in Libya and Syria, it's the same thing. These repeat, they fund chaos. Chaos is incredibly profitable. They also benefit of the rebuilding funds. We know about the massive contracts that Caterpillar has all across the Middle East. Caterpillar being an American organization, construction organization. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're funding. They want chaos. Chaos is exactly what they're after. As Littlefinger would say, chaos is a ladder. One of my favorite speeches. That's my second Game of Thrones reference. I think it's coming across. I'm a bit of a GOT fan here.
More and more destabilization of the Middle East, more and more encouragement to extreme fanatical groups who are hostile to the West. Not good for anyone.
Not good for anyone. And very quickly, the Iraq war scarred British politics, scarred the Labour Party for a generation. Is there a danger the Iran war could do the same?
It scarred British politics and scarred Labour for a generation. Didn't affect really anything. Okay, none of them went to prison. It's funny how you can have these scars and you can have these international crimes committed and you can have the millions and millions of people die needlessly, and yet Tony Blair still swans around like, you know, without a care in the world, knowing that he's never going to be arrested for these crimes because he is a white male and they don't pay for their crimes. They can kill as many people as they like. They can lie. He's proven to be a liar. He's proven to have brought the nation into a war. Like this has all come out. Like this, if this was a black man, okay, in Britain or in Africa, he would have been locked away for life a long time ago. Okay, a long time ago. And shout out Zawad as well. Congo, a perfect example where conflict is funded, chaos is funded. You want chaos, and then all of these Western organizations are siphoning off all of that mineral resource. All of that mineral resource, and they're paying nothing for it. That can only exist in the moment you have a settled government. It doesn't matter if it's Islamist, this is, that is, Christian. It doesn't matter what the government is. The moment it's settled, you are going to pay more. It's only in a situation of chaos that you can get what you want for free.
Well, I hope it won't be just scars. I hope it will be clarifying. Come on, let's disentangle from just being the American poodle and always going wherever they want. And let's have an independent foreign policy and then independent use of our intelligence agencies, military and so on, to be more defensive, more respectful of international law. America's, I mean, it's not just Trump, he's particularly extreme, but it's going in a different direction to Europe, and we need to be clear about where we're going.
Fascinating analysis. Claire Short, thank you very much.
Well, shout out Claire Short. What she said there sounded actually half decent. I'm just very bitter with her because of what she did in Zimbabwe. I think she owes the Zimbabwean people and the Zimbabwean government an apology for starting that conflict. But that being said, shout out. She, you know, sounds like she's bringing a little bit of accountability to British politics, which is something that you rarely hear done. So shout out to her. So yeah, I've got a few other videos that I want to go into, but I've been on for 2.5 hours now. I think I might pick up tomorrow. So if you're, I'll pick up with some new topics tomorrow. I think that'll be it for today. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's been on this live. We've averaged about 25, 26. There are 32 people who are live now, which is a good number. Can I just say to everyone, if you want to have permanently highlighted comments, please join the members. So if you join my membership, either tier, you get permanently highlighted comments. The higher tier also gives you access to the stream. Okay, so I can bring you on as a panel guest. So what I'll do is once I have members in that area, I'll open up the panel. So if you ever want to join into one of the discussions that we're having online, that link will be made available for the higher tier members. But any member will have permanently highlighted comments, which I will read out whenever you make them. So please do join the membership if you just want to support the channel irrespective. But either which way, guys, thank you for joining me. I've actually really enjoyed this. We covered a few topics. Hit up the like button and leave some love in the comments. If you've enjoyed the discussion, leave some thoughts. Let's continue this discussion, and I think I'll pick up some of it tomorrow. Okay, shout out all of the people who donated. So that quick shout out to Dregger and Stephen for your donations. They're much loved and much appreciated. Shout out to Zawad, Stephen. I had 3 subscribers. Wildflower, Boller's World, Retro Haven, TJ, No Name Given, Naemra, Crenshaw Grinder, Sybil Nakale, keep murdering your name. Oh, Raccoon Slayer, and Rainy. Thank you guys for joining me. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the next. By the way, I have a really exciting live stream coming up on the King's Monologue channel. I'm just thinking about when to schedule it for. Just got one more bit of research to do, but my next live stream on King's Monologue channel is going to be very explosive. But anyway, have a good day, everyone. Catch you later. Peace.